Lokesh Kanagaraj was being heavily trolled for losing all of his aura points with the manner in which, holistically, Leo and Cooley turned out, and how the concept of the LCU slowly crumbled. The same man was being even further dragged for having the gall to take up not only a full-fledged acting role, but be the leading man in an adaptation of Devdas. Arun Matheswaran as a director is a person who polarizes a lot of Tamil cinema viewers. Quite on the contrary, I absolutely love the passion with which he creates these ruthless spectacles on the big screen. They might suffer from becoming convoluted for their own good or being emotionally distant. The style over substance tag often gets flung towards the director, but the man has genuinely created some memorable tales for me, especially if I were to consider his debut feature film Rocky and the Dhanush starrer Captain Miller. This weekend his directorial venture DC released, which probably will be his wildest swing. His own take on the classic Devdas is already ambitious enough, but the main lead being played by famous director Lokesh Kanagaraj is not only a huge risk for him, but puts Lokesh on the chopping board for judgment, pivoting like so many directors have, but most of them also falling flat on their face with such risks. I mean, everybody can't turn out to be like SJ Surya or Anurag Kashyap, but does Lokesh pull it off? I've been interested in this film ever since its first look drop because I was immediately drawn to its cinematography and music composed by Anirudh Ravichander. As the film's trailer explored close to nothing when it comes to its screenplay, I wouldn't ruin it for you either. It's the duo of Devdas played by Lokesh and Chandra played by Wamiqa Gabbi and his bandit of friends who find themselves in a bloody journey running away and oftentimes combating the police force that equally twists the law to save face. What is the significance of Sanjana Krishnamurthy in the tale playing the role of Parvati? Why are they on the run? Why does the tale get so violent and gruesome is what you explore in this unapologetically bloody A-rated film. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the movie so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch DC in theaters or not. The underwhelming aspects. Surface level characters and writing. If you have seen any adaptation of Devdas, you would know that beyond the facade of Dev being this brooding, distant alcoholic, there is a lot of pain that he is experiencing from within. A lot of it stems from parental conflict and directors often choose different paths for the same. The Bansali Devdas presented the mother being of the belief that Dev had an ulterior motive to the family riches. The Kashyap film presented them as frustrated guardians who just could not deal with their son and his deadbeat alcoholic ways. Here, however, the wedge between the father and son is narrated by the father himself, and this I believe is not effective in extending an emotional connection with you and Das. And I believe the running time does a disservice to this core conflict, spending more time on a cat and mouse chase versus emotionally drawing us in. This is even true for Das and his motley crew of friends. The supporting cast do a spectacular job in the material given to them, but their distinct personalities are never explored. We are given information again through a narration of how this gang may have been formed, and it just passes by in a flash. There is also a police officer presented with a moral conscience who keeps on questioning the purpose of the police and whether they are fighting for the right fight, but his character is not as profound as Matheswaran may have intended. I believe had the movie been slightly indulgent in its running time and prioritized the relationships more than the action choreography and chase sequences, this tale would have been just not good, it would have been exceptional. Handed on a platter and generic antagonist. I was deeply invested in this tale. I did not at the slightest feel like that was rather convenient or even scoffed at it being too easy for the group of criminals getting away from the cops. But there is one scene that made me cackle, and it was not a funny scene at all. The scene showcases an officer asking a villager what he is holding on to his waist, and the answer genuinely made me facepalm. I get that some people in life are naive, but this took it to another level. Those who have seen the film would know exactly what I'm talking about. I know this is not a commercial star-led movie, I know it is not burdened by the traditional beats that it may have to follow, but I believe the movie with its antagonist, Krish Dayal portraying the investigating officer, left more to be desired in their quest to catch a hold of Das and his men. There are elements of evil that just don't get conveyed in this police versus vigilante tale. You feel the animosity of why Lokesh is hellbent on ruining the investigation and even their life, but the performance and writing of the main villain, I believe, just made me feel like that zing of vindictive hellbent evil was missing in this portrayal. I am in no way expecting an absolutely psychotic portrayal like what SJ Surya taps into with his commercial movies, but you know, even a grounded film like Soncharaiya can have an Ashutosh Rana, where you feel every ounce of hatred in his portrayal for who he considers to be miscreants of society. That feeling somehow was missing in this film, mostly replaced and taken over by the cat and mouse chase across state borders. The good, cinematography and music. As I previously said, one of the main reasons why this movie garnered my interest was because it was so visually striking. In an era of films where absolutely nothing is real in the backdrops of actors, we get a journey from Vellore, Chennai and several locations to mimic the route towards the border of Andhra Pradesh that is unlike any other road movie possible. Imagine subverting expectations in such a way that the journey that is mostly associated with calmness and serenity due to the beautiful landscape you see around you, here you have the same picturesque locations but associated with dread, murder and violence. This juxtaposition is beautifully captured by cinematographer Mukesh G, providing honestly one of the most visually striking movies I've seen this year after Balan and Rao Bahadur. The frame of Wamiqa walking towards the wide expanse of water, getting a taste of independence after a long drawn battle of trauma, or the frames in which the streetlights flicker as Das and Chandra stare at each other, or this beautiful contrast as their hands meet, of one holding a gun and the other a plastic rose. It's genuinely beautiful to see. This is visually and from a storytelling point of view what Dacoit wished it was. The standout, the absolute star of the show, however, is the exceptional music that Anirudh has formulated for this tale. There is a lot of chatter that floats around with anyone as popular as Anirudh, especially because of how much he consistently works in the industry. How is one man capable of such output while maintaining the quality of work? This is easier said than done, of course, because I definitely feel like after watching Jananayagan, some of Anirudh's trash folder songs do make appearances in some movies, but here he is at his most unique self, showing off his ability to integrate even classical undertones to capture the essence of this violent romantic tale. Raga of Revenge is so dreamy, something that you may have heard in the trailer of this movie. The classical vocals are associated with drums and they fit so well in some of the most bloody action set pieces, especially standing out in a police station ambush scene. This marriage of classical notes with trance-like beats continues with a piece like Namaste and Jaya Jaya Shankara. It's in my opinion Anirudh reaching his most unique god-level status as a composer because this tale allows him to strip away from the template of expectations always associated with star-led projects. You don't see a derivative of what you've already heard. This is an artist given the freedom to express himself and he thrives. Gore, an interesting adaptation. The film goes absolutely no holds barred with its portrayal of Gore, and it promised exactly that with all the marketing snippets you may have seen. I mean, there are shots in what seems to be every director's checklist at this point to have their own corridor scene, but the way the knives and machetes go through some of the goons, even I, who am absolutely not squeamish at all, found myself looking away in a few instances. The action choreography mostly hits the right notes. What I find funny is that the source of it often stems from minor inconveniences or someone being disrespectful, and all hell breaks loose. Starting with an action set piece in a lodge where only beer bottles were breaking, and Lokesh shines as the camera consistently moves to capture his swift ability in eliminating goons. Two specific sequences stood out for me. One that included the corridor scene that I just spoke of and an ambush scene in a police station that is elevated tenfold by Anirudh. But also the climax battle that just has this absolutely wild trance beat that plays on Jaya Jaya Shankara. It genuinely captures the use of ammunition and blasts that one would associate with a police force combating a group of bandits who survive no matter what threat looms around the corner. The supporting cast performances are extremely convincing. Avinash Raghudevan as Kitty being the voice of reason. My heart genuinely went out to him for every time he tried to put some sense into the group to evade conflict. Used to hit the fan. I especially loved what the makers did with the role of Chunni Lal in this film, a devious crook who looks for his vested interest, and the performance by Sharath Ravi perfectly fits the mold of that description. Three primary characters. The characters of Devdas, Paro and Chandramukhi are beautifully adapted in this film. As I told you, my wish from Arun Matheswaran was to indulge a little more with his characters because their stories deserved it. Their complex origin stories deserved more screen time. I especially feel this way with the interaction between Das and Parvati, played with great subtlety and elegance by Sanjana Krishnamurthy. She had a calm presence about her, something that drew Das towards her, and it for the brief interactions they had worked so well to convey why Das falls head over heels for her. As the movie title suggests, it is the dynamic between Das and Chandra that really is the highlight of this film. Described as madness meeting madness, and that dynamic could not be described better. Wamiqa is feisty, emotionally vulnerable, and has nothing to lose. These traits act as a boon boon and a curse for Das as he tries to evade the authorities, meeting his match who has the same survival skills but is equally destructive. The Bonnie and Clyde dynamic is extremely entertaining to watch, but there is a deep sadness that resides in both of them that is conveyed with such conviction. In one scene, Wamiqa screams at a character responsible for so much trauma in her life, and you couldn't help but root for her wanting to escape from these oppressors. Lokesh as Das is a calculated storm, an oxymoron, leading by instinct but being calculated with every decision. We often like to restrict people in a bubble. We hate those who dare to diversify or tread towards the unknown, and Lokesh with DC is a beautiful example of taking such risks, going out on the limb and attempting what many people believe he could not pull off. And this fiercely loyal but emotionally distant alcoholic was so well portrayed by the director and now actor that I love that he is having the last laugh with DC and what people feel about him as an artist. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about DC. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.